Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Arabella Espinoza, and I'm here joined by Omar Z. Robles. Hi, Omar.
Hola.
How's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
Doing well.
Awesome.
Um, yeah, I'm so excited to have you for day two for another photo editing stream. We're all super excited. Thank you guys for joining us in this stream and say hello in the chat. We love to engage with all of you guys. Let us know where you're watching from. It's always really cool to see who's in the chat and yeah, who's joining us and where you're watching from. So let us know in the chat. I'll shout out a couple people as we go through the stream. But yeah,
Yes.
we have a little bit of housekeeping as usual. So yeah, if we can take a look at the schedule, that would be awesome. Awesome, thank you. So we've got Victoria. It was earlier at 7:30 a.m. for some spooky illustrations. I'm so excited that Halloween's coming around. So a lot of these challenges and everything that's going on is all very like Halloween themed. So super cool. Voodoo Val gave us a Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge just before this. All that's still going on. Today we're actually going to be doing some portfolio reviews. So you guys can still check out the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge though and still submit because there are mentors and a whole community over on Discord. So still be, submitting those challenges. So, and then we've got Omar until about 11:30. Andrew right after with an Illustrator Daily Creative Challenge at 11:30, and Nick for a logo design at 12 p.m. Peter for an XD Daily Creative Challenge at 2 p.m., Kyle for another draw along at 2:30 p.m., and Jesus and Claudia for a rework it at 3 p.m. So tons of stuff going on always. So super fun. Have this in the background. You'll learn a lot and hear from other creatives. And it's just a great, Adobe Live is just a great resource. So always good to tap in. um, yeah, super excited to have you, Omar, again for day two. I feel like we learned a lot yesterday. So for anybody that's new to you, yeah, if you can kind of just give us a little lowdown of you and maybe share some of your work as well as you talk about yourself.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'm really happy to be here once again
Yes.
for day two. Yesterday was really exciting. And so thanks everyone who's tuning in. And I'm happy to share a little bit of my work so you guys get to know me a little bit better. I am a Puerto Rican born and raised photographer, now living in New York City for the last 6 or 7 years. I don't even know time anymore, especially these days. You cannot count the reality anymore. But yeah, I've been living here in New York City. And to give you a little bit of a short background, I started photography generally as a photojournalist. But before I was a photographer, I actually studied and performed as a mime for several years. So I have a strong background in performance arts. And as a photojournalist, when I started doing photography, I played around and discovered a few of the photography, spectrum and different genres. But I really, really honed in and loved documentary photography because of its nature, because of telling stories about real people, and particularly, I really love telling stories about artists. In a sense, because I really felt identified with that. And within doing that, I discovered street photography as part of documenting everyday life.
Mhm.
And I really love that idea of finding stuff in the spot, finding what especially in cities like New York, Chicago, where I was living before. You find like spots of light or different occurrences of life just happening in front of you, and that was really exciting. And at some point, to make the story short, as I always say, I discovered that I sort of could join that reality and break that reality. And I started working on a self-portrait series where I would place myself in this same areas that I was photographing, street photography. I will place the camera and then do stylized jumps, kind of to break with that everyday life and bring a
Mhm.
little bit of surrealism or fantasy to that whole frame. Time got by, I got old. It got difficult to be both in the front of the back of the camera, and I
Of
started
course.
outsourcing the. Hey, are you calling me old,
No.
Arabella? I
But
am. I just turned 40.
I get you though. I mean, self-portraiture is really difficult. So I'm
It's
sure,
difficult, yeah.
it's yeah. At
I
some
I
point it becomes easiar to photograph somebody else,
I hear you, and I really love doing it. But especially, when you're in the city, you have the camera there. You're paying attention for the camera and not to get stolen. At the same time, it gets a whole mess.
And you're
So,
trying not to get ran over. Oh my
and you
gosh, you're
try
like
not to
probably in
get
the
run
middle of the
over.
street.
Yeah, for sure. So it was a whole set of complications, and I decided to sort of outsource, as I say, the jumping to the dancers. And because I was already in this world, and I have a lot of dancer friends. Not that much in New York because I was new to the scene, but
Mhm.
I knew I know the world pretty well. So I started reaching out to dancers and performers, and I started developing this series where initially it was more of it wasn't so dance centric. It was more kind of like just floating kind of essence, but then it started becoming more and more about specifically about dance.
Mhm.
And it was really the idea of saying, w- because that's the way I look at things, is like, what if we, instead of walking through the sidewalk, we leaped, or instead of
Yeah.
crossing the crosswalk walking, why don't we fly or jump? Because hey, why not?
Yeah.
Life should
Absolutely.
be a little bit different. We shouldn't be doing everything. And that also came from when I was living in Chicago. I found a group of free runners. They're also called parkour athletes. And it's the same idea. It's trying to use the urban setting as your playground, as jumping and really playing around. And that's something that I never want to lose as an artist. It's the idea of play, of having
Yeah.
fun, really. So really, that's what the series is come to be. So if you see my Instagram,
Yes.
this
Make
is
sure to go follow
particularly,
him. It's Omar Z Robles.
yeah.
Robles.
Yes. So this is, for example, the picture that we edited yesterday,
Yes.
and actually something that I'm really excited about is this series. I'm not gonna play it now because it might go long, but it's a series that I have been doing during
Mhm.
the lockdown, if we can call it that. It's called Conversations with Dancers. It's another take on my work with dancers. Oh, I think I froze. Hold on, you guys. Let me. Yeah, no problem. I'm just gonna go here, and then if not, I'm just gonna change cameras because we are. There you go. Are we back on? There you go. Sorry about that, guys. So I was talking about this, new series that I've been working on,
Mhm.
Conversations with Dancers. It's really a series of interviews where we get to actually talk to the dancers, and I give the audience a chance to get to know the dancers in a deeper level, and not just about the pictures, but really about their life, their sacrifices, the things that they have had to
That's
do.
amazing.
And it's really been insightful for them, but especially for me, it's been really insightful. And I've learned a lot from my work, from talking to the dancers in this fashion. So if you
Right,
have a
right.
chance, make sure to check out that series. And the last thing that I want to show you guys is my website, where you
Yes.
can come and see more of my work, and you can check out my portfolios. You can buy prints. You can buy signs, different signs of the cities that I've traveled. And here's some of my series. I'm particularly proud of this one, of dancing 35, because I've been photographing in 35 millimeter film as well, over the last two
Yeah.
or 3 years. So yeah, make sure to check that out,
Very beautiful.
omarzrobles.com, and you can also follow me at omarzrobles on Instagram.
Yes. Yeah. Awesome. Go follow him. Go check him out. I really love that series too about, how you have these conversations with dancers. I think that I'm sure is very informative for you
Yeah,
and can is a way for you to connect with them even more. And I'm
yeah,
sure again, that's kind of part of that relationship between a photographer and the protagonist, as we said yesterday. And how like that would only just strengthen, I think, the shoot too, and the
yeah,
images that come out from
definitely,
those
definitely.
conversations. But thank you, Wade, for plugging in Omar's Instagram. Make sure to go follow him. Just a couple quick shout outs. Hi Ferry. Ferry's from Indonesia, is
Wow,
a regular. Hi, Danny from Houston, Texas. Hi, Hizkie. Also from Indonesia. Andreas, hello from Germany. So we've got a couple people, international people in here. So
wow.
always, yeah, it's really incredible to have all of you guys in here. So thank you for tuning in. And just as a quick reminder too, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to come over to behance.net/live. We are here and the chat is available so you can ask Omar questions,
Yes, please.
engage with everybody. And so, yeah, come on over because, otherwise, if you try to comment on YouTube, we won't be able to see those and chat with you. So come on over and yeah. If you have any questions for Omar, please ask them. I will
Yes.
interrupt him and ask him for you.
Yeah, that definitely makes the conversation more
Yes.
challenging and interesting.
Yeah, we had a lot of really great questions yesterday.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you wanted to watch the replay of that, Omar, what exactly did you work on yesterday for anybody? Just as a quick recap.
Awesome. So yesterday I was working specifically on dance photos, on the series that I was talking about, and we worked on some images that were already pretty nice out of camera, but then I also took a
Mm-hmm.
challenge and accepted the reality that sometimes we mess up, we kind
Right.
of
Yeah.
fail a little bit. So how can we use Lightroom as a source, as a tool to bring those images back to life and take advantage of that tool for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's available for replay, so you can watch it whenever. And again, this day 2 stream will also be available for replay later, so you can just
Yes.
kind of rewatch it later if you don't have a chance to tune in the entire time. But yeah, so Omar, you're a Lightroom ambassador, so I feel like we learned so much from you yesterday, just like a little hint of like what's to come too. So super excited. If you don't know about Adobe Max too, you might want to check that out. It's free, virtual. It's going to be happening October 20th through the 22nd. So lots of really great sessions. You can learn a lot. And yeah, so Omar, what are you going to be working on today?
Cool. So today I'm going to be working specifically on portraits. And these are really portraits of the dancers as well, the dancers that I photograph. Oftentimes during the sessions, I will just, get inspired by some lighting or something that I see, and then, take advantage of that to create a portrait because it's also a little bit more of a personable way to approach them. And sometimes they even use those portraits as headshots
Yeah.
afterwards.
Oh,
So I'm
totally. I
super happy
would.
to yeah, I'm super happy to provide that as well, as part of our artistic exchange. So basically, that's what we're going to be working today, and I kind of want to give you guys also a chance to see how I approach lighting as well in this kind of situation. So I think we should just go ahead and get started
Yeah,
with this
let's do
image.
it.
And
Dipankar
yep.
says hi, and a couple people say hi. Reverb Mike says hi.
Hey, hey.
Thanks for
So
joining us, guys.
thanks for joining us. So this image is from he's actually a contortionist named
So cool.
TJ. Let me just pull another of his pictures here so that you can get to see him a little bit more. And one of the reasons why I love photographing with him, other than the fact that he's obviously an amazing performer, is that he's like all tattooed, and as you can see, I love tattoos as well.
Yeah.
So
Can you explain everyone what a contortionist is, just in case some people don't know?
so a contortionist is a very special kind of human being that can actually bend in so many ways. And
Hmm.
I wish I could. Let me see if I can pull some of his pictures here. Let me see. Maybe. Let's see. The pressure is
The
on.
pressure is on, Omar.
The pressure is. Let me see. Hold on. I'm not gonna show his pictures because it might be in in a different album, but I'm gonna show someone else's. Another
As
contortionist. Let me see.
an
Oh, there you
example.
go. As an example, so basically, this is
Oh
what a
my gosh.
contortionist, does. TJ has just the same ability as this is Adalberto. He's a Puerto Rican contortionist, and I photographed Adalberto many times, but this time it was particularly in the context after the Hurricane Maria had sweep through Puerto
Uh
Rico.
huh.
Several months afterwards, I came back to Puerto Rico and did a series concentrating on showcasing some of the areas that had still
Yeah.
that you would still see the impact of the hurricane. And
Wow.
this is
That's
a
incredible.
yeah, and this is it was a difficult reality for sure, but
Hmm.
this is a spot that it was right next to the beach, and because of the water had taken a lot of the shore and pull it in. I don't know if that's the right word, but pull it in. You could see a lot of like the this is all completely destroyed, and this is one of my
Wow.
favorite also. That's part of like the destruction
Oh
that
my
happened
gosh.
afterwards. So the idea was to place the dancers in these areas or and the performance in this area so that people could to a
Yeah.
little bit bring
Yeah.
attention to the situation. So TJ, it's also a contortionist like Alberto. And yeah, so that's the kind of work they do. They really, especially for males, is very different. Usually
Yeah.
females are more often seen as contortionists because they're a
Right.
little bit more flexible. So guys like Adalberto and TJ are very exceptional because you don't really see that many males working as contortionists.
Hmm.
So it's a pity that I can't find his work now because I would love to show you, but maybe I get to see it
That's incredible,
afterwards.
though. So
Um,
basically, a contortionist is someone who's like incredibly flexible and can just kind
Incredibly
of
flexible, yeah,
contort their body
yeah,
in many ways.
in ways that you can't even imagine.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So yeah. So as I was saying, I turn to the portraits oftentimes during the sessions to take advantage of that moment. And here I had like a really interesting lighting that I you'll see through my work. It's a common theme that I use a lot of contrasty light, especially in situations like this. So here we have a situation where it was actually like an alley, and there was like a spot of light. So behind him everything was pretty dark, but then there was like this little spot of light on him. So I took advantage of that situation. But what happened is that, of course, because I'm working with available light, well, there's not a much lighting happening in the back, so there's not a whole lot of separation. So let's try to
Right.
work and see what we can do. I don't, that's not something that I completely mind at all, but we want to at least, bring a little bit of emphasis on his hair and whatnot.
Yeah.
So let's start by, before we go on and do any of that, let's start by using the healing tool, because this thing does bother me quite a bit. So there you go. Just like magic, we
Easy.
get rid of that. I'll make sure to have it on heal as opposed to clone, so that it's more like softer and it's not, you're not, in this case, it doesn't matter that much. It's just black on black, but
Yeah.
you have to pay attention to that.
Especially if
Um,
you do end up brightening up that dark
yeah,
area.
yeah,
Yeah.
especially if you do that. So now let's work on the exposure a little bit. I don't know if there's, let's just rotate it a little bit, because I think it could definitely benefit of a little bit of rotation. So that his eyes are a little bit more on a horizontal, and then you use the constraint crop tool, so that there you go. So we're already
Very nice.
before,
Yeah.
after. So yeah. See, even with a portrait, I'm I'm obsessed with like having everything
The
straight. Uh,
geometry.
Geometry is like a thing. So cool. So all right, let's start just by bringing, and this is a lot of experimenting. Like let's start by bringing up the exposure a little bit. Um, we want to do it just a little bit because we don't want too much of that light creeping in, and then afterwards we're gonna have to, definitely gonna have to bring down the highlights now. Good, and that's a little bit more balanced. So now let's pull up the shadows, and there you go. How, and I don't want too much, because I don't want to go here. I don't want to see all that behind, because it's really not that important. Really what I'm trying to do is bring a little bit more of an accent on his hair, and that's really about it in that sense. So you
Yeah.
see the difference, how before and after
Yeah,
it.
you were losing the hair a little bit, or it was like going
Yeah,
into the dark. So now you
yeah,
see a
yeah.
little bit more
So now you see a little
distinction.
bit more. And now I'm gonna come here and bring a little bit even of a vignette, so that we still lose a little bit of the background, because again, I don't care that much about the background. I really care about him, and just to bring up his hair. So now, even with bringing a little bit of vignetting, you still see um his hair and his features, and you can already see from the before how it's a little bit dull in general in mood, and now you see that there's a little bit more brightness and a little bit more of strength.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
then just for fun, I'm going to add a tiny bit of sharpening, and then just a tad of texture, because I definitely want to bring a lot of texture into that hair. There you go. um, so so let's go before and after.
Wow.
There you go. Cool. All right. So now let's bring down the vibrance and the saturation a little bit, just because I like there. Sometimes those reds can be a little bit too annoying, and I really like to keep it subtle and soft. So that's why I'm bringing down the saturation there. Let me
Hmm.
see. Come back here. Boom. Boom. There you go.
Wow. Yeah.
Um, Perfect. All right. Temperature is fine. Whites are okay. We can bring it down just a tad. Let's see if we can bring it. Let's bring it up just a little bit. Cool. And then the blacks are okay. I'm gonna leave the blacks as they are. Cool. So now let's go to the point curve, and as Omar Z Robles always does, let's just bring up a little bit the shadows there, the lower anchor there. And let's create that little bit of an S
Yeah.
curve to bring it back to,
I really like that treatment that you have, like, what do you call it? It's like mattifying, or I don't know.
modifying,
It's
I
like,
guess. Yeah.
yeah, it looks really good.
And the idea is really to make it a little bit flat. I don't know if let's call it matte. I don't even know what to call it, but let's call it
Yeah.
matte. Um, you know what's really interesting is that all these camera manufacturers are like concentrating on bringing more and more detail, and then we come back. It's like, no, let's make it a little bit older and
Yeah, a
more
little
vintagey. And
softer, a
it's like,
little more. Yeah. Basically, we're trying to emulate film.
yeah, yeah, that's what we're trying to do. So, and then once again, let's go bring the saturation back down a little bit more because again, once you add that S curve, it usually has a tendency to make it a little bit more saturated. So just bring down the saturation and the vibrancy just a little bit. And let's see before and after. Yeah, and I'm really liking it
Hmm.
quite a bit there. There's something that I'm gonna do here. I'm gonna bring down the texture because it's kind of exaggerating a little bit on the face, and I don't want
Hmm.
that much in the face.
I really
It's
like that
starting.
you kind of go back and forth too, and you see like the differences that you have made, like from
Yeah,
like, yeah.
yeah, because definitely you do one thing, and it's like it's really a balancing act, when you're
Hmm.
editing. It's really a balancing act where like if you move something, something else moves on the other side, and then you have to bring that back there with another thing. So you really have to play that game and pay attention to the whole structure. Oops, there you go, we froze again. Hold on, give me 1 second. Why is life so difficult? Let's try this one more time. No, thank you.
It's a good thing that you have like these multiple camera setups.
Yeah. All right. Let's just go to camera two because camera one just died.
For the
There you
record,
go.
Omar has the coolest setup going on with all these different things going on. It's really cool.
Cool. Then this other camera is like, I have to, let me bring it closer. There. Boom. There you go. How is it now? A
Great.
little bit better. Okay. It's not that white. Perfect. Awesome. Perfect. Awesome. All right, so we're back to editing. Sorry about that, guys. Technical difficulties. So good. So we're back here in the image. I'm really liking it so far. I could easily leave it like that, but let's just go and start with the split toning because again, I like to add a little bit of tonality to the shadows, to add more of the film-ish looks. And there is it's just a tiny bit. If you see just that much, it adds just a tad of warmth to the image without really overpowering. You don't want to go here or anything like that. You want to
Hmm.
keep it. Let's not say you. Let's say I. I like to keep it that way because that's just the way I do.
I have a
And
question
then
for you.
yes, please.
How do you decide, like, what to do with the split toning, like, for every image? Like, is it unique to every image? Like, you just
It's unique to every image.
okay.
Yeah. I mean, I usually gravitate towards the greens and the reds
Hmm.
because I like to keep it, again, give it that kind of film look and keep it warm. As a Caribbean, I think I like that, I guess. But but yeah, I mean, it's very organic. It's really a case by case scenario where depending on what I see or what I feel at the moment, it's really where I'm going to gravitate to.
Yeah.
So there's no set answer. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of there, a little bit of red to the highlights, not too much. Um, yeah, there. And you already see
Yeah.
it really adds a lot of a lot of
Yeah.
character.
Wade says it looks great.
Awesome. All right. So if Wade says that, let's leave it at that. And really that's about it. I don't mess up too much with like skin softening. I do sometimes, or like I said before, if there's something that is way too distracting in terms of that needs healing, then I go for that. But I usually don't because I like to keep it as true to life to as possible.
Hmm.
Um, so cool. So I think this is pretty good. Let's go to the full screen um, in general and let's look at the before Let's look at the after.
It's very beautiful.
Um, Thank you so
I think
much.
you really hit it too with just the way that the light hits on him too, and it's kind of like I even like the little shadow on his nose and from like his hair.
Yeah,
It's just like very like um, eye catching and
yeah,
intriguing.
yeah, and again, this is going back to like you try to do as much as you can in camera, and then the rest is frosting. I don't know if you say that in English, but the rest is just um, garnishing basically.
Mhm.
But really, the idea is to get everything as best as you can on camera. So let's jump to this other photo, not of him because we already saw him, and this one will be the. But just because we can, this is what I usually do. I will just go copy edits and then I
Uh-huh.
come to the next one because it's basically in the same area, and I'll just paste it. And we'll see that in this one it's not just that much copy paste, as simple as that, because the lighting was a little bit different. So I will
Right.
come and then I will just fine tune it for this specific image a little bit. Um, and in this case, the lights in the back don't bother me that much, so I'm not gonna. Let's just see what happens if I do that, but it's not a big deal in this case. Let's just come and edit this one here. Yeah, sure, let's do it just because we can. But it's not something that bothers me too much. Be lazy, make it bigger. There you go.
Oh,
Uh,
nice. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's not that
Yeah.
much of a big deal, but it definitely adds. Um, and in this one particularly because we're adding just the type of texture that I really like how it makes his tattoos a little bit more accentuated.
Yeah.
But other than that, that's all that I really need to do. I don't really need to, or don't like to go so grungy that it makes it then look kind of HDR and
Yeah.
unnatural. I'm gonna bring down the whites a little bit because he's not wearing the white shirt. Um, but yeah, that's how usually I would go through a session. So if it's a series of pictures that were taken on the same spot or the same general area and the same lighting, then I just basically copy and paste the edits and then just like um, keep going on that way.
Yeah.
So it's good that you guys got to see that. All right, so let's go into this other image. Her
That's
name
so
is
beautiful.
Olivia Burgess. She's a French American dancer as well and model. You probably have
I
seen her
love her
face
hair.
i- in some big billboards around if you're in New York City. But yeah,
Oh,
she has like the most amazing hair. So this is
love
part
it.
of a series that I was doing last winter. As the winter comes in, it's a little bit harder to photograph indoors. So I started outdoors. I'm sorry, because it just gets cold. So I started working on this series, particularly when I was doing while I was doing film called Imperfect. And I put like I am and then dot perfect, to name it.
Mhm.
And the idea was to create imperfection in a scene, whether it was because of the background or something around the image, or just the in film you have a lot of surprises. So I would actually purposely throw the focus out or just like add a little bit of camera shake and stuff like that. And it's really again going back to the idea that in digital photography everything has to be so perfect and we're so obsessed with megapixels and sharpness and this and that.
Sharpness. Hmm.
Yeah, and in reality that's not what makes a an image in the end. What makes an image, in my opinion, it's the message. What are you really trying to bring forward? And you can do that with any camera. You can do that with
Yep.
any tool, as long as you are present in the picture as you're creating it. So that was the idea with Imperfect. And in this case, we did many images, but in this case in particularly, she was also like very particular about having like her room like very tidy, and I was like, nope, let's mess everything up. And she's like, no, people are gonna see that. No, let's do it. So like we messed, we had like stuff thrown around the room and stuff like that.
You're like, we're going for imperfect.
Exactly. But in this particular one, again, I saw this beautiful light and I said, all right, let's just go for a portrait here. Let's concentrate on a portrait, because the light was coming in really nicely. And here I'm really gonna play with like adding a lot of contrast. So of course, let's start by why do we start?
Hmm.
By what do I always start now? The
Geometry.
geometry. There you
That's
go.
right.
Because
Always.
otherwise it drives me crazy. All right, so let's go. Let's see what auto gives us.
Paco
Um,
says amazing capture, and
thank
I
you,
agree.
Paco.
It's very
Thank you,
beautiful.
Paco. So that's auto. That's full.
Okay.
I think I like full a little bit more because auto is cropping a little bit too much.
Yeah.
So let's just go for auto. I really like it there. So let's,
Yeah.
I mean, full. Let's leave it in full because it still adds a little bit of the background. And this
Yes.
was photographed with the Leica Q2. So it's a 28 millimeter. So we have enough of the background as well still without getting too much distortion. Okay, so let's get into the lighting. So the very first thing that I want to do is I'm just going to bring down the exposure just a little bit, but not too much. Let's bring it down a little bit more. There you go. There you go. Yeah. And
Mm-hmm.
now, obviously, we definitely need to work on the highlights because it's too harsh there. And see how much Lightroom is allowing us to
Wow. That's
really,
beautiful.
and I'm doing really gradually so that we can see it, but we can see the change. But you see how it was pretty blown out at that point.
Yeah.
But we can still, with Lightroom,
Bring it back. Bring those
bring it
details
back
back.
quite a bit, and then create really a lot of that contrast. So I'm gonna leave it at that there, and then I'm gonna keep playing with that curve because here is really we can add a little bit more of the contrast. So go back to mattifying it, and boom, and see how we have like
Yeah.
a whole lot more contrast now. But you can still see the background, which I don't want to lose the background completely. I still want us to know that she's in her bedroom, and she's having like a moment. So I'm not, I could easily just bring the shadows all the way down, and have this, but I think we would lose too much of the mood. So let's just leave it at that, so we can still have our perspective of that.
Yeah.
Um, so once again, let's go bring down the vibrance a little bit and the saturation a little, not too much. There you go. And let's just bring a little bit back. Bring it. There you go. Bring the highlights down just a little bit more even, and let's just
Very
bring
nice.
the not the blacks. Sorry, the whites. Has this ever happened to you that you're editing and then you're like, you stop looking at the slider and then you're looking at the image and you swear that something is changing, but you're actually not moving anything at all?
Yeah. That's like
Like, oh
after
wait,
hours and hours and hours of editing. You're just
yeah,
like,
you're, and
what?
then it's like, oh no, it's my eyes that are going this hard.
I know. How long do you usually like how long of editing time do you can you go for?
I mean, I could go forever, I guess, but I definitely need to take breaks
Yeah.
from here from time to time.
Yeah.
But I don't take a whole lot of time editing, quite frankly. And again, like I was saying yesterday, it gets to the point that it's second nature. So now you're just going through motions and really
Mhm.
not thinking about it. So unless it's something that's specifically for a client that you are like have to be very meticulous and really
Right.
be very, very, very careful about everything. That's when it gets exhausting. But I think it's more emotional because you are really like, it's more like you want to deliver, so you want to make sure that everything
Right.
is fine. But this is my personal work, so in this case, for me, it's more relaxing and I actually really enjoy it. So
That's great.
time kind of flies.
And
um
I'm sure like, as you've over the years of just photographing and gaining more experience, it's become like a lot easier to photograph and get things a lot more right in camera, how you were
yes,
talking about
yes,
yesterday.
definitely.
And which makes that editing process even smoother and more enjoyable because, you're not, yeah,
Yeah, it makes it more enjoyable, and then it makes it more about putting your style, your secret
yes.
sauce. I've
Secret
been
sauce, yes.
I've been watching on the interwebs, not to mention any particular network, but a series about tacos, and it's called the Taco Chronicles, and then it's like how each tacos are pretty much universal, but what really makes each taco different from each taco stand, it's really the sauces that they make, but
It
because it's
really is,
really
yeah.
each their own. So this is what you're doing. You're really creating the sauce at this moment. If you have everything right in camera, then you really just adding, you're personal
Oh
secret
yeah.
sauce.
Absolutely. I want to maybe in the chat let us know what your secret sauce is, like what your favorite thing or your signature style.
Definitely.
Let
And
us know
also,
in the
what's your
chat.
favorite taco sauce? Why not?
Exactly. Yeah, favorite taco sauce. Tell us. We've got a couple
Cool.
people who just joined in. Hi, Michelle. Hi, Steve. Oh, Steve says this is some amazing photography.
Thank you so much, Steve.
And
Uh,
Sitaram says hello. PPO Spina says hello. So lots of people in. Thanks for joining us. We're here
Thank
with
you so
Omar
much.
Z Robles. He is a photographer. Today we're focusing on more portraiture, but all most of them dancers, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
Uh,
super cool
awesome.
stuff.
Thank you so much. So, all right, so let's just review a little bit what we've done. This is the before image. So basically, what we've done so far is generally work with the geometry. That's always my starting point. Then we brought down the light a little bit and added a little bit more contrast with the point curve. And then, as I mentioned before, that usually kind of alters the saturation a little bit. So we bring down the saturation and the vibrance a little bit to then make it a little bit more balanced. So now let's play with, let's just add a little bit of texture because again, she has some really, really beautiful hair. But you know what I'm going to do just for you guys, and it's something that I don't usually do, but I'm gonna use the brush tool
Ooh,
just so that we
okay.
concentrate on her hair, because I really don't want to affect anything else on her skin or her. So if you use the O uh, shortcut, it
Mm-hmm.
shows you the overlay, so you know exactly where you're working at that moment, and you're not,
Affecting
brushing
anything that you don't want.
anywhere
Yeah.
else. Exactly. So let's just brush her hair a little bit, uh, pun completely intended. Uh, and we're brushing a little bit of hair here. So what we're gonna do afterwards is just add a little bit of texture
That's a good
and
pun, Omar.
clarity there. There you go. You do what you can.
Paco
There you
says his
go.
favorite taco sauce is the red taco sauce from the taco shop at Underdogs in San Francisco.
Uh,
So good.
nice. So are you a spicy taco person or not? How about you?
I like spicy, but I also really love like flavor. I'm always into like, for some reason, I gravitate towards the green sauces. The green sauces are the best.
They are good. I can do spicy, but my wife hates spicy. So when we went to
Oh,
Mexico, you ask people, is it spicy? And they say, no, no, no pica, no pica.
oh,
But it
but
does.
that oh, it does. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, right? Like everybody has different
Tolerance, yeah.
tolerances. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think for me personally, like as long as the spiciness doesn't stop me from enjoying the flavor in the food,
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
perfect.
yeah. I can do spicy a little bit, and
Yeah.
definitely has that zest that really makes you enjoy a little bit more.
Yes. The
Um,
kick.
Yeah, but that's I guess always like a personal thing. All right, so I brushed the hair completely so
Oh.
we can see with the overlay. So here, boom. So we can see that's what I
Hmm.
where I brushed. So now let's turn off the overlay so that we can see now the how is it affecting the hair. So I'm just adding a little bit of texture to the hair to bring back some texture to the hair. So and again, it's very subtle. I don't go crazy with this.
Right.
Boom, 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 boom. Let's just go a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. There you go. So, and then just a little bit of clarity. And see how it just makes it a little bit crisper,
Yeah.
but not too much. I mean, I can go for broke and just go here, and then here, but
Oh my gosh.
let's just keep it simple.
Yeah.
My bad.
Oh, is that a sneeze?
That's his needs.
Bless
Just
you. Salud.
wear your, gracias. Wear your masks, everyone.
Yes.
There you go. So and again, this is because her hair is so spectacular that we really want to keep that and make sure that it's really highlighted. So boom, and it's really not all that much treatment that it needs, just a little bit. So let's go back into the editing
Yes. Wade
panel
has a
and
question. He
yes,
said, so was that a mask that was brushed over the hair?
um, I guess so. Yeah, that's a mask.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. And you used what tool was it called
So
again?
I use the brush tool
The brush tool.
basically. Um, and yeah, and then it was just a subtle change, not too
Yeah.
much. But you know, if you hit the O, the shortcut O, then you can really see exactly where the mask is affecting, and you're not retouching or touching anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So just because there's one little blemish here that is a little bit distracting to me. It's nothing big, but I just want to take it out because um, that light is hitting it in a way that it's
Accentuating it.
accentuating it too much. Let me just undo that
Mm-hmm.
for a second. I no, not too much. There you go. Just a little bit because I don't want all that.
Nice.
Just add a little bit of feathering there. Yeah, that's good enough. Cool.
Yeah.
So now we don't see that. Wait, no, there you go. Boom, 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 boom. And let's go back to the edit. Good, good. Right, and that is it's not like so much in your face now.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
cool. So the next thing, and I guess maybe just maybe the last thing that we're going to be doing, it's again the split toning. Um, this one I definitely know that I want to go with the green.
Mm-hmm.
Green because I really want to make it look more film like.
Yeah.
uh
Absolutely.
okay. And then here we just add a little bit of basically like pinkish to the highlights, and then of course we add a little bit of vignetting
Very
to
nice.
to bring a little bit more emphasis to her.
Barry says his favorite taco sauce is mayo.
mm,
Interesting.
Look what I have to say to that.
I don't know
No,
either, but we'll see, I guess.
no.
um, Reverb Mike says he also thinks that it's how they season and cook the meat and also how good their guac is.
True,
It's
true.
true, true.
True. Well, it's important to season the meat correctly for sure. Um,
Yes.
so I think this is it. I'm not gonna go any further. I could definitely play a little bit with the curves. Yeah, why not? But not too much.
It's kind of subtle changes.
Not this one. This. There you go. So
Wow.
let's
That's
just
so
add.
beautiful.
Just thank you. Let's just add just a tad more green over here, and that's basically it. I really like it like that. Um, and in this case, I'm not gonna do any skin smoothing or anything like that. But I guess I really like to keep it just as close to real as possible.
Yeah.
Obviously, adding all these colors and styling. But yeah, this is the after, and this is the before. So see how like all I guess subtle changes in the end end up making such a big such
Wow.
a big difference.
That
There's
looks
one.
very cinematic too.
Thank you, thank you. That's kind of the idea, really. I guess we kind of see life as a movie. I mean, I don't know you, but
Yeah.
I add my own soundtrack to
Yes.
to life.
Yes.
So whenever I'm like out in the street or something like that, I'm definitely imagining some kind of soundtrack in my
Mm-hmm.
mind for sure.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
there's only one last thing that I want to do, just because I noticed I just want to take a little bit of saturation down, just a little bit, and I think that's just it. Let's leave it at that because I really
I
like
really
it.
like too that the lighting hits her eyes too. It's like a kind of this like how you were saying earlier. It's like a moment of like
Yeah,
realization or like some
yeah.
sort of like yeah. It's really
Yeah,
cool.
that's really the idea. Cool. So let's move on to this next image. This one is rather challenging because we're on the subway. When we could take the subway. I mean, I guess you can,
Oh
but I don't. I don't do it anymore for now. Um,
yeah.
but the lighting definitely is challenging. But I always had this idea, and I really wanted always to do this portrait. So this day it was actually raining outside, so and I had already scheduled the dancers, so I ended up saying like, all right, let's just meet. There's a train station close to my house that is not underground, but it's covered. So we just ended up meeting there. We'll
Yeah.
photograph a little bit on the platform, but then because it's the terminal, terminal is the last stop. Then the train stopped there for a while, so we could get in and out of the trains and photograph a little bit.
That's smart.
So we did this portrait there, and then there's a couple more that we did that day, but let's work on this one first. All right,
Amazing.
so let's start obviously for with the geometry. Yeah, and that's
Barry's
basically it.
asking, do you have any tips for lighting?
Um, you know, I've as I mentioned yesterday, I only use available light. I only use what I what I have at hand. Whether it is natural light from the sun, or in this case, for example, we only have there's lighting from the sun because it's daylight, but it's mostly the lighting from the train. And really, the only trick that I can see is watch your shadows. Really make sure that there's not too much shadows on the eyes specifically, because you really want to make sure that the eyes are the eyes come through in when you're doing portraits. I really think that's the most important thing. And then try to use the light, for example, in this case, to your advantage, to create drama,
Right. To create an
uh,
interesting
to create an
effect or
interesting effect. Exactly. um and that's really photography. Literally is um photography, right? And it's the art of painting with light.
yes.
So what you need to do is really be observant. Look around, and pay attention to what you have around you. I started When I started learning photography, my mentor, he was a fashion photographer in Puerto Rico, and we used to in Puerto Rico, people use strobe lighting a lot. I mean, like
Yes.
obsessively, to a certain extent. It's used all the time. I guess because the light is very harsh in Puerto Rico in general, so you need to kind of tone it down and control it. But we always use, basically my job was carry the strobes as an assistant. And one day, I get to his studio. We're getting ready for a job, and I tell him, all right, so which packs do you want me to bring? And he's like, oh no, we're not using any
Oh,
strobes today. I was like,
you're like, what? What is this?
what?
Unheard of.
Exactly. And he said, well, light is light. It's a matter of really understanding it and using it to your advantage. And basically that day, it was the first time that I ever worked with available lighting and some modifiers like reflectors and things like that. But for the most part, we just used everything that we had available to us. And really, that's the most important thing about light, is really look, pay attention, and then see how you can use it to your advantage. If you're then going to use light modifiers, and if you're going to use strobe lighting and stuff like that, then you can get into really manipulating the things for your own taste. But that's a whole other class that we're not gonna get into today.
Yeah.
So let's
Those are
go
great
back to
tips.
this.
Thank you, Omar.
Thank you. Let's go back to this image, and let's go back to the before and after. So in general, this image is sort of okay, but we see like the window is a little bit, it's not exactly straight. So I just added from the geometry, like it. But what I'm gonna do next is I'm gonna crop it, because this make it 8 by 10.
Okay.
No. Okay, let's just keep it at the original
At the
two by
original
three.
size. Yeah.
And then let's just kind of get rid of that there. Move. I'm in trouble. Am I in trouble? Or am I not in trouble? Let's see. Let's
Maybe
just
you'll
do
just do a
custom.
custom.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
just do custom. Let's not be so snob, and let's just do custom. There you go. There you go. And now we're just concentrating on that frame. And that's uh age-old photography trick, is a frame within a frame. So that's basically what we're doing here. We're just
I
using the
love that.
window frame to frame her specifically. And then we have like this outer one, this other one, this other one. So we have like 3 frames that are like framing her specifically. Cool. So we're done with that part. And now let's get into the exposure, which is basically fine, but I'm just going to bring it down a little bit so that it really hones in into her. And see, as I bring it down, as we start already seeing a lot of her. Um, and I'm going to use this little secret tool, the dehaze tool, because
Mm,
the windows add a little bit of hazing, but I'm going to use it very, very mildly so that it's not too much. Let's just go crazy with it, see where it takes us. See that I could do this, but then it's a little bit too much in my taste, because then we kind of lose
right.
the, the fact that there's a window in between. So let's just a little bit less, and there we can still see that there's a window in between. We see the reflections from the back, but we can still see her. um so cool. So
Yeah.
before, after, cool. Let's just add a little bit more blacks, so we have a little bit more contrast. And let's see what happens with the highlights. Mm,
Oh.
yeah, there you go. Cool, cool.
Oh yeah. What a difference.
Yeah, so there's already like a whole lot more emphasis on her.
Yeah.
Cool. So let's do our, as you, how do you call this, baptized it,
The
matizing,
mattifying.
modifying. So let's bring that down. Let's bring this up here. Boom. See that without this, with this,
Oh yeah.
without,
That's so
with
cool.
this. There you go. So I'm gonna bring just a tad this darker. There you go. Cool.
Oh
All
yeah.
right. Okay, so one thing that I'm not loving about the scene, and it's always difficult with this type of scenario, and I can assure you now that we're not gonna get it perfect, because it's never perfect, and it's the lighting. It's kind of wonky in these scenarios because it's fluorescent lighting, so it adds kind of like some weird hues.
Some color. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but let's play with it and let's see where we can take it to make it a little more natural. So I'm making it a little bit cooler in this case. So I'm bringing the temperature not too much, too much, too much, too much, too much. There we go. Kind of there. All right, and then let's add a little bit of magenta. Yeah, yeah, I like that. So let's see the before. See how it was kind of like yellowish green.
Yes.
Not there. It
Ooh.
looks a whole lot more natural, or a
Yeah.
whole lot more like how your eyes sees it. So I think it's okay there.
It's so
Uh,
interesting how our eyes kind of train to like notice
yeah,
what seems right or
yeah.
seems more right, you know?
Yeah.
So
It's
crazy.
it's interesting how, the whole idea of white balance.
Yes.
It's really a mirage. It's really like, it's white because you're there and you know what white is in contrast to everything else. But in
Mm-hmm.
reality, there's actually a tint to it, and like,
Yeah.
that's what photography, or that's what the light spectrum does. It colors things as as it bounces around. But our brain, it says it's white. So then when we come to fix it in post, then we kind of have to try to like rebalance or recalibrate our brains to say,
Yes.
all right, wait, this is not right. Let's just bring back. And I assure you, there's probably no white still around. It's just like what my brain is telling me. Okay, this kind of looks okay.
Yeah.
Uh, so my brain tells me this is sort of okay. So we're gonna leave it at that. We're gonna bring again the saturation and the vibrance down just a little bit, not too much, just a little bit. And the next thing we're going to add is a little bit of texture, especially because she's behind several layers. So even if the image is sharp, we do need to bring back a little bit of texture because it was
Yeah.
taken out by by the layers of
Just
glass.
like a tiny bit of
uh,
detail.
yeah, just a tiny little bit. And we already see a little bit more detail in her face and on her hair and whatnot. So uh, let's bring some vignetting just a little bit to bring back the emphasis on her. So let's see, before, after.
Wow. Yeah, that's
And
awesome.
this is exactly what I do when I'm working. Is this, I'm not doing this for you guys. It's like I always go before and after, before and after, before and after all the time, so that
That
I
makes
know
sense.
where I am at. Um, cool. And now let's play with the split toning. Split toning. And I just want to add a little bit of warmth here. So just gonna bring uh, just a little bit. Then let's see what happens with the highlights. No, I don't want to do too much with the highlights. But I just noticed there's still a little bit of green
I know you probably
creeping
didn't
around.
intend for this, but like I like that it kind of gives me like slightly eerie vibes. Like,
Yeah,
who's this lady in this bus, like all by herself? And I'm so intrigued. I want to
it's kind of
know what's
Halloweeny.
happening. Yeah, it kind of
It's
is.
kind of Halloweeny there. Yeah, for
You're
sure.
very on brand,
Uh,
Omar.
it reminds me of the Nightmare Before Christmas. She kind of in this
Yes,
scenario,
actually,
she kind
yeah,
of looks like
yeah,
what's the name of Jack's love affair, I guess, love
yeah.
interest. I
Tell us
forgot
in the
her name.
chat. I can't think of the name right now either.
But I think in general, this is really close to where I would like it. Let's play a little bit with the curve to see what we can add there in the end.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know, maybe a little bit there. No, maybe a little bit there. Yeah, that's okay. Just very, very subtle. It reminds me, I
Yes.
think there's a Lightroom ad that's like, yes, yes, no, I love it. I love it. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
Very
See
nice.
the
That's
difference?
so cool. Yeah,
Uh,
it
so
looks
let's go
awesome.
to before
Wade says Sally. Maybe it's Sally.
Sally, maybe. Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that
I
sounds
think
right.
so. Yeah.
Thanks, Wade.
I love that movie. I can see it 20 times over and over. I know the whole soundtrack is so
Oh
so
my
cool.
gosh. I know for sure I'm watching Coco this month at some
Oh,
point with family.
oh yeah, for
Oh,
sure.
so good. I
Oh
need to
my
put
God, I
my little
cried.
ofrenda.
The first I hadn't seen that movie, and the first time I saw it, it was on a plane, and I started like bawling, like it's.
Falling. Oh.
I'm like, I hope everyone no one's
Okay, fun
watching.
fact, I went to watch Coco in the theater 7 times.
What? I mean,
It was so good.
it's amazing. It's a
So
beautiful
good.
movie. I really, really love that movie.
Yeah, if you guys want to watch a good movie that's about Day of the Dead and like such a good like feel good, but also like there's some twists and turns in that too.
Yeah,
So, really great movie. Just, can learn a little bit more about the culture and Day of the Dead and
yeah, and
it's really
about
cool.
family for sure.
And about family. Oh,
It's a
100%.
beautiful film.
Yeah.
Uh,
Beautiful.
okay, so let's get into this other image.
Ooh.
And again, I think you see it as a theme throughout of my work. It's like how I really love, that chiaroscuro, that like, really pushing the envelope with like lighting. So,
Yes.
here there, and what's interesting is that, for example, this is from the same set. This is the same person, and I started with this this was the initial portrait that I was doing. And what you can see, the shadow that you can see here is actually me. It's actually my hat. So I was wearing a hat, and it was pretty cool. But then something that I've learned also that you should do when you're photographing is that then you don't just do one angle. You start working around and you work with the light and see like what else can you find.
Yeah.
And that's when I turn around and then
I
oh
love
wow,
that.
I saw this. And this was like pretty amazing again because it's about her, but it's really a character kind of
Yes.
piece. So the first thing that I did with this picture, that I will do with this picture,
I really like how
uh,
experimental you are too.
I try a
Like,
lot.
yeah, I mean, even from like that first image that you worked on to the last one, it just, yeah, you like to experiment and play, and I think that's really
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. And again, as I said at the beginning, it's really all about fun. And I think if you're not having fun,
Hmm.
and I think this comes from my theater background, but that's why you call a play,
Yeah, yeah, actually, yeah,
and to
that's
play,
100%.
a character, because you're supposed to be playing, you're
And
supposed
the
to really be having
protagonist.
fun. Yeah, and you're really supposed to be having fun. So
Yeah,
so that's why for me this is it's fun. And when I'm editing and when I'm photographing, it's always about like experimenting and having fun. So never lose that sense of
I
wonder,
love
never
that.
lose that sense of experimenting, because it's really what will make you, it's really what will make you you, you know, in the end of the day. That's, you know, people always want to know the secret sauce as to, you know, it's like, how do
Hmm.
you make it in photography? How do you find your voice? And really the way to find your voice,
Is to
it's by
experiment.
experiment, it's trying different things. And that's why sometimes it's really hard to give those kind of seminars, because people want to like a straight answer. The straight answer is like, there's no answer.
There's really no answer. You just have to go for it, do it, experiment, create.
Yeah.
And over time, I think you kind of figure out what it is that makes you unique, you know?
What and you know what, it's not really what makes you unique, it's what speaks to you. It's what you
Yes.
find that then you, or you little by little organically start to gravitate to those things. And honestly, oftentimes it's like you don't even know that you found it until sometimes people tell you, hey,
But
I've
people tell
noticed
you,
this in your
yeah,
pictures, and you're like, you know, it's true. And that's when
that's,
you realize,
yes.
oh, so I guess this is what defines me. But it's like your name, you don't give yourself a name, someone gives you your name.
Hmm.
So it's kind of the same way. um
I
wow,
think
it's
that's amazing. Wow,
existential.
look at you. Yeah.
We
Okay,
got all
Amar.
like existential. I'm not.
No, I love it.
Ah,
That's great. I think that's
cool.
all really great advice and just, I mean, I hope that, inspires people to, continue creating and to
Play. Yeah,
play and to have fun throughout
yeah.
it all. And again, like, challenge yourself too. And you won't know any of these things unless you
Try them.
do things, you try
Yeah,
things. Yeah.
yeah,
And that's why, I mean, that's also why, Adobe Live is such a great resource. And like, try out those challenges, all those challenges that, are being given daily.
yeah,
And, submit your portfolio and just, continue to create. And yeah.
yeah. Amen.
Hmm.
So, so we're back in this photograph, and the first thing that I'm going to do is just crop it a little bit, just because I think there's, I mean, I could use it here, but I really want to bring it back to just her. So I'm just gonna crop it until like the very edge, right here, not too close to the edge, but so there's a little bit of breathing room so that we see her
Yes.
enter the frame a little bit there. Um, but you know, reminds me also of like a very Hitchcock kind of
Yeah,
feeling.
actually, you're right.
So this is
Fun
really what I
fact,
was going for.
I share birthdays with Alfred Hitchcock.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Friday the
I
13th,
really?
August. Mhm.
Wow. August. Oh, hey.
Oh, are you
Um,
August too?
yeah, but I'm later. I'm like Virgo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. I
I
like
share
it.
birthday with Michael Jackson.
Oh, look at
Yeah.
that. Wow.
Yeah.
So
The
cool.
29th, the
Wait, that
29th of
actually makes so
August.
much sense. Look at that. Like it's like, he's always known for his dance moves. So like
Uh,
and the fact that you're photographing,
there you
dancers,
go.
that's so
There you
cool.
go. Cool.
Wow.
So quite frankly, there's not a whole lot otherwise that I would do, but again, it's just in the spirit of experimenting. So I'm not gonna touch the shadows, of course, because there's enough. But let's just bring just a little bit the highlights, but just not really that much. And that's really about it. And I think the next steps would be obviously to modify,
Hmm.
because that's what we do. So we do like this
Very
little
nice.
S curve over there.
I have a question for you, Omar.
Yes, please.
Um, I really like asking this to people because I think you learn so much about the artist and the creative. But what do you think is, what do you think you've learned about yourself throughout this creative photography journey?
Um, Many things. Definitely the idea of the sense of playing, as we were saying before. I've learned that this is something that I have to always keep alive. And I say always because you definitely fall into some moments of valleys. You know, you fall into creative valleys at times. And I found that the way to sort of get over that is really to push myself and just say like, hey, you know, like I don't feel like going out. I really don't feel like going out, but I'm just gonna go out. I'm just gonna place myself in that situation. Um, so that's definitely something that I learned. But then the other thing I would say is just um patience. You know, like I've discovered that I'm generally a very impatient person, as I was saying before. Like I like to come back and see the images right after. But you know, especially during these days, for example, where photographing becomes more challenging, you're using a mask, you have to take into account so many more factors. And I've realized how much, you know, like how patient I am in spite of being a ball nurse all the time. And I've really discovered that that's something that about myself is like how I juggle with emotions without even
Yes.
knowing it. And that's something, that I've also through the conversations with dancers, I've been telling dancers, it's like what you guys don't know is that I'm a ball of nerves when I'm photographing you guys. Like they say like, oh really, I thought, you look so confident. It's like, yeah, but inside I'm like a, you
Inside.
know I'm
Yeah.
like there's, they say, they always give that analogy with the dogs, like the dog is like very still over the water, but under, like you see the feet, like they're moving like crazy to
Yeah.
stay afloat. And I guess that's basically, what I've learned about myself in that sense is that you have to do that kind of balancing act in life in general, I think,
Yeah.
to really juggle that. So I don't know. I hope that answers your
That's
question.
no, that's beautiful. I love that answer.
Thank you. Cool. So we modified the picture, and then I think I'm gonna go straight to the point curve this time instead of going to the split toning, and then just add just a little bit of green because I really like that. Started with the green, and then let's just then just a little bit of the, no, not even the magenta, just that. But what I do want to do though is I want to bring a little bit more saturation to the yellow in her hair. Let's see what happens there. Boom. So I really want to bring back her hair. Let's see. Ooh, there. And then let's just add a little bit more more luminance there. Then, and then
Nice.
texture. Just add some texture to the hair. Then let's just add some vignetting to add some more mystery.
Yeah.
And again, we bring a little bit of that film kind of look.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's beautiful.
There. Thank you. I think I'm gonna leave it at that. I'm not gonna do anything else to this one.
It kind of seems like a little bit I don't know, it could either be like an evil like person or like a hero.
Oh
You
my
know what I
God,
mean?
you're
It's like
you're way too into Halloween
I
now.
know I'm way too into Halloween right now. But also heroic too. Like I don't know,
Yeah,
it could
yeah,
go either way, you know?
yeah. If you're not watching The Boys, you have to watch The Boys on
What's the
Amazon.
boys?
The Boys is like a superhero kind of. Well, it's way too violent, but it's about superheroes, but
Uh-huh.
then they're not that good. They're not that
Oh,
hero.
okay.
So
Interesting.
it's pretty cool. Oh,
I
one of my
mean,
definitely favorite series ever was Heroes. Uh, but you can't watch it anymore, I guess.
oh
Uh,
no.
I think maybe on, I don't know if they still have it on Hulu, but it's like an amazing series.
Okay.
Heroes.
I'll
Yeah.
have to check it out. I'll look it up.
Yeah. Cool. So I
Cool,
think
cool.
this one it's pretty much like that. I'm actually just my brain told me to add a little bit more black, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more black there. That's it. Not gonna do anything else to this one. I really like it
Perfect.
like that. Cool. So let's jump into this one because I
Yes.
really like this. I really like what's happening with him here. Like I really like his face. I really like the texture, but I find the background really distracting in this picture.
Hmm.
But this is where we were, and this is what we were doing. So, but the way I'm going to fix that basically is just I'm gonna start first by making it black and white and see
Ooh,
how
okay.
already there it really makes a difference, and then the background doesn't stick out so much. So the next thing that I want to do to this picture is just I'm gonna crop it in.
Everyone's agreeing with you about the boys. Wade says, "Ha, that's what I thought of too, Omar." And Paco says, "Watching the boys right now. Agreed, it's super violent, but yet it keeps me coming back." And Jen Eric says, "Last episode was mind blowing."
Yeah, it's crazy, but it keeps you coming back. It's like, oh no, what
Yeah,
did they really
I'll
do
have to
that?
check it out then.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope we don't get in trouble for for talking about that. But it's a crazy show. Cool. So there you go. So I brought it into black and white because I find the background too distracting, and it takes out from him. So I
Hmm.
really want to bring him as the main subject and leave everything else behind. So we're making it black and white to do that, and then let's just play a little bit with the exposure to bring a little bit more accent to him. We're
Okay.
definitely going to bring the black down to add a whole lot more contrast. There
Mm-hmm.
you go. And let's see
And
what happens
drama.
with the white. Yeah, to add quite some drama. Um, and then let's mattify it, because we cannot not do that. And you see how also when we modify it, it also brings like some contrast back in, and really like in the finer details. Um,
Yeah. It really adds some like this texture that's like really
yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, and that's what we're gonna add next. We're gonna add texture, and in this kind of image, I really like to add a little bit more than usual, because it really, you really see like, especially like the sweat, in his face. Like we really accentuate those
Mm-hmm.
those little drops of sweat,
And
and I
because it's black and
really really
white
like it.
too, like all the
Yeah,
details just kind of come out a little bit more.
yeah. And then I'm also gonna bring up the whites a little bit more here, especially like so we see more of the whites in his face. Let's add just a tiny bit of clarity as well, um, just to then again add more to that texture. And then let's add vignetting. Actually, scratch that. I'm not gonna do vignetting. I'm really just gonna go into a radial, to a radial. What's going on here? Radial gradient. Why can't? Is this a memory thing or what? What's going on? Why can't I? All right, well, I'll try one more time. If not, I'll just do the vignetting. All right, I don't know what's going on here. Maybe I did something. I can't remember what it was. Let's just forget about that. And let's then do just a gradient, a vignette. Sorry. Uh, there you go. And I really like the drama in this picture.
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah, that's incredible.
let me see if I can add a little bit of more light in his face. Wait, that good. So if we can brush, it's allowing me
Oh
to
yeah.
brush. So just add a little bit more light in his face. So just bring the exposure up just a little bit. Let's see. There we go. So the overlay. Uh, so just bring the exposure up. There you go.
Nice.
There you go. Just put a little noises a little there. Boom. There.
Very nice.
Just add a little bit more texture there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I really enjoy this picture. I
Me
really like
too.
it.
Me too.
I think it's quite okay like that. So let's go to the before and after, so we see like how, I liked what was here, but because of the background, it was really a disservice to really
Hmm.
the message that he's trying to portray. But we really see it now when we bring the black and
Yeah.
white. Um,
And that's kind of something you were talking about yesterday too, where like sometimes like the background might be a little bit distracting, or sometimes there's colors that you're like, so like sometimes the black and white can like make all the difference.
Yeah, yeah, definitely the black and white make. And I don't use black and white a whole lot. I should use it more because I really enjoy it.
Hmm.
But then when I show my wife, it's like, what do you like more? And she's like, oh, color. And there's definitely something to color that
Right,
it
right.
brings a lot of I don't know, spice to things. But then I think black has this very strong nostalgic,
Yes.
emotional look,
Yeah,
that I think that's why black and white photographers are so adamant about, because it's definitely there. It's really just about the nostalgia and the feeling. But hey, color has a lot of feeling as well. So, oh wait, I
that's
did
true.
something wrong.
Yeah.
There, boom. So, cool,
Very
cool, cool.
nice. Awesome.
Awesome. All right, let's
Just to
see.
remind you guys, we have about 15 minutes, under 15 minutes until we do portfolio reviews. So if you guys have any questions for Omar, please ask them in the chat. We'd love to hear any of your questions.
Definitely. So let's see what we play with now. Okay, this is something
Perfect.
that I often do as well. And this is a reflection, actually. And I always like to play a lot with reflections. Again, one of those moments where the dancers are like, "What are you photographing? You're not pointing the camera at me." I'm pointing it like at a window next to them. So this is definitely this is part of the series that I did in my hometown in Caguas, Puerto Rico last year. And yeah, so let's just play a little bit with it. So
Very
I know that
nice.
it's a reflection, and I really want to have that sense that it's a reflection. I want to keep that sense that it's a reflection. And what I like about reflections is that it adds a lot of layers. It almost feels like a double exposure to a certain extent.
Yeah.
So in this case, you can see what's going a little bit in front and behind. So let's just play a little bit with it. And just because of the nature of this particular image as it was, it has a lot of like brownish tones to it, so kind of sepia feeling to it. And
Yeah.
I'm not gonna touch that because I really kind of like that. So I started here by just bringing up the exposure a little bit, um, and just gonna bring the highlights down a little bit. Ooh, what happened there? Oh, I touched this by
Whoa.
mistake.
I mean, it's kind of moody.
Oh no. Let's see, reset channel. Let's reset all channels there. Sorry about that. Uh, cool. Not talking to you, Siri. Siri started like yelling, sorry.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's creepy.
Yeah, Siri, imagine all the things Siri's gonna start scaring people, and
Oh
they
my
should do that
gosh.
just for fun. Why not?
For
They have the power
October?
to do it.
Oh
Yeah.
my god, yeah. She
Cool.
just starts talking out of nowhere.
I
Like,
don't know. I mean, she does anyway.
that's true.
Well, so let's just add a little bit of the blacks here to add some contrast, and let's again go back and forth with the. So this is the original. This is the edited so far. Original, edited. Cool.
Yeah.
So let's mattify it now. So, just a little bit. Yeah, not too much there. And I really what I like about the modifying ish kind of thing is that it also makes it brings like a layer of subtleness. I don't know how to explain it, but
Yeah.
it adds like a subtle mask of softness all around.
Yeah.
That's the best way I can find to
Yeah,
translate
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Uh, but it really adds a little bit of that soft character to it. So the next thing I would do in this picture, I'm just gonna add a little bit of texture to emphasize the different layers that we see here. No clarity, no thank you, and then yes to the vignetting. Boom. So just a little bit of vignetting um, there.
Very
Cool.
nice.
And then finally, so I said I was not gonna mess with the brown because I really like that kind of brown hue,
Yeah.
but just gonna add a little bit more.
Like a subtle chocolatey like
Yeah, yeah.
hint. Michelle says beautiful photo reminds me of Saul Leader. I don't
Of
know who
who?
that is. Saul Leader? Lighter?
Uh, I
It's
it
Saul Saul Leiter. I don't know who that is though.
I don't know what it is. It
But
sounds like
Jan
a
Eric agrees.
so we'll definitely have to look
Yeah, we'll
him up.
definitely check him out.
There you go. And I really think I would. You know what I'm gonna do though? I'm gonna add some blues. Just gonna mess with the blues in the background to accentuate it a lot. Not a lot, a little bit. Let's see, just let's see that. Let's see here.
I like how you do that. Like, you slide it all the way kind of to see what it like
Yeah, to
affects.
see what is affecting. Yeah, because for example, in this case, it's not too, no pun intended, black and white. It's not exactly blue, or it has like some different tones to it. So
Hmm.
I'm actually gonna bring it all the way down to here because I think I want to keep that blue there. There. Let's see. It's subtle, but it's there. Let's
Yeah.
see what happens with this one. No, this is not doing anything. So finally, let's just come here with the point curve. There you go. There you go. There you go. So
Very
to the
nice.
I mean, and let's just remind people that at the end, there's no right. I mean, there's no rights or wrongs. There's definitely wrongs in life sometimes, but in this case, you know, you're just playing around, and I'm doing this now to this image, but then maybe later I'll come and be like, oh, maybe I want to change something here or there. But for right now, I think this is where I want to leave
Mhm.
it. I'm just gonna take out a little bit more of the saturation and then add a little bit more vignetting, and then right there is just an example again of like how do you, you know, as things change and progress, then you know you kind of keep playing with it. But I think for the sake of it, I'm just gonna leave it at that right now.
Yeah.
um and then maybe I would in Photoshop, but I'm not gonna do it now because I'm not great at it and it takes me a little bit more time. I would fix this how do you call that,
Like
pliegue,
the wrinkle.
the wrinkle here that is kind of distracting me. um but I would do that, you know, I would do that in Photoshop later. But you know, if
Yeah.
for everyone who doesn't know how to do it, I mean, I think you, where is it, where are you, where did you go, where did you go? Here, right here. You go here, you can say, is it here? uh, is it a,
To edit like in Photoshop?
yeah,
I
I
don't
know it.
know. I know in Classic it you like right
Yeah, in
click and you
classic,
can
and then
edit
oh,
in
here
or
you
edit
go.
with.
So it's a right click and then edit
Mhm.
in Photoshop.
Ah,
Here you go.
there you go.
We could, but it's no, I don't want to do that now. Should I?
If you want, totally up to you. We have
Let's just
about
try it.
7, 8 minutes until reviews, and then you can always work on something a little bit after. Yeah,
Is it opening?
super fun. Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you ever take over your images to Photoshop or if you kind of are a strict Lightroom person.
I'm mostly a very strict Lightroom person. I use Photoshop very seldomly in cases like this where I know like in Lightroom it's just going to be a little bit more challenging. So in cases like this one, then I go for it. So the first
Mhm.
thing that you always want to do in Photoshop is you always want to create a copy of the layer just to make
Mhm.
sure that you can always come back if anything. So with you can do it here with a right click, or otherwise you can just duplicate layer, or you can hit Command J, and that's your shortcut to create
Mhm.
a layer.
Yeah,
Now, as I
that's
said, I'm
cool.
not a Photoshop whiz, so I might end up doing things wrong, or just the way, not the way everyone does it. But
Sure, sure.
Photoshop has
Um,
definitely come a long
oh
way
yes.
into, especially into doing things like this. So I'm just gonna do this one here. There's a quick shortcut. You do Shift Delete, and you bring the content aware fill. Uh, Not really. So what I'm going to do instead is the patch tool. Just
Mm-hmm.
gonna just copy that from here, um, kind of
A little
there,
bit better. Yeah.
and then you play a little bit with
Kind
here.
of takes a couple tries and trying different things too.
Yeah, yeah. That's why I wasn't sure if I wanted to do it now because it really takes a
But
little bit of time.
it's
You were
part of
going
the
to say something.
process.
Yeah, it's definitely part of the
Yeah, I
process.
was gonna say that Jeffrey had some questions,
Yeah,
um,
Jeffrey.
some gear recommendations. He says, "I bought my wife a Sony SLTA 58 and a Tamron 17 to 50 1.28 lens. She's really into outdoor photography, wide shots. Do you have any gear tips?"
Um, all
I
right,
mean, I
outdoor
think,
photography.
yeah.
Um, Tell me again the lens.
It's the Tamron AF 17 to 50 millimeter,
50. And the
1 to
camera is
2 8 lens at the
uh,
Sony
uh
SLTA 58.
I'm assuming that's a crop sensor. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Um, I mean, I would say if you're into outdoor photography, it really depends because outdoor means a lot of things.
right.
Um, and again, it comes down to what I always say is that the lens is really about the vision. It's literally about the vision, about what really you see. So outdoor photography could mean landscape, and you can do landscape with wide angles or or telephoto lenses. There's really
Right.
no one thing or the other. It's really about what speaks to you and how do you see the world. So, but I would advise that as a beginning, you always want to have like an all-purpose lens, kind of like, and I think you want in the right route of getting
Yes.
sort of like a all-purpose zoom that you can play with and learn in that sense, because
Yeah.
you have a little bit of a wider in the 17 range, where in if it's a crop sensor, it's closer to like a 24-ish kind of thing. So that's
Which
kind
is
of like
still
a
pretty wide
24
angle. Yeah.
to, yeah, it's kind of like a 24 to 50 to 70, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken. And yeah, I think you definitely went on on the right route to start playing in that sense.
Yeah.
But you don't want to get too crazy with gear right in the beginning, because then otherwise you start thinking that gear is what really makes the photograph,
When
and at the
it's
end
you.
it's you. So it's really more about using some tools to kind of play around and see what you can do. Sadly, because of we turn to use too much the tool of YouTube and social media, and then we get into like, oh, this person is, I need to get this lens, I need to get this other lens, and then at the end we're not photographing at all, we're just buying stuff. you know
Yeah, that's
uh
such a good point.
and I think, afterwards you come to the realization that you just need very little. So after having like a ton of lenses and a ton of cameras at some point in my career, I ended up like narrowing it down to like I have basically two cameras, three cameras. One is like a fixed lens that I use on a daily basis. And then I mostly photograph everything with one lens now, which is like a
Nice.
50
That
millimeter. But
was that was his next question too. It's like what's your typical camera lens setup?
so my typical camera lens setup right now, for example, I was saying that Leica Q2 is what I use whenever I go out to do everything, just to have like a kind of all-purpose fixed lens camera. And then after that, my everyday camera is the M10D, because it really emulates the experience of film. I can't look at the pictures, so I have to be a little bit more focused into what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And the 50 Summilux, which is like a 1.4 f1.4, and that's really what I use for the most part when I'm photographing with film. I'm using the M6 and the Summicron 50. And it's interesting because 50 was a focal lens that I really didn't like before when I was photographing with a crop sensor, because for some reason it just didn't add up to me. But then
Mhm.
when I started using film, which is a full sensor to a certain extent, it's not a sensor but it's a plane. Then I kind of fell in love with the 50 millimeter range,
Yeah.
and I've stuck there. So um, yeah.
Cool. Thank you for that. And Paco says that's a really great point. Gear won't get you the motivation to go out, shoot, and master your craft, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
100% like
yeah,
the truth for sure.
yeah.
Cool, cool.
Cool. So I think I can leave it there. I'm not gonna mess too much with it. There's still
Okay.
a little bit distracting, but that's it's gonna take me a little bit more time. But I mean, just to give you a quick before and after, it's
Yeah.
already okay.
Yeah. Totally.
Um, uh, yeah, I mean the dark side doesn't bother me that much. It's more like that crease there. So I'm gonna leave it at that. Then maybe play a little bit more with it.
Yeah,
Um,
for
so now
sure.
if you hit save, it just supposed to send it back to Lightroom, and then we'll have it Lightroom. Uh,
An updated version of it.
yeah.
Yeah. Asim says, I really like his color aesthetics.
Thank you so much, Asim.
Yeah.
Uh, cool. So I think we're on the verge of start working with portfolios.
Yeah, I think we're about ready. Jan Eric just commented and said, I'm really puzzled as to why camera gear review channels are more popular than channels that discuss the artistic side of photography, which is like,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah,
there's a
it's
whole thing
true.
about gear.
Because people wanna mainly people wanna buy stuff and then feel that they justify their
Yeah,
purchases.
yeah,
Um,
for sure.
Yeah, but that's definitely like a good thing. I think we should emphasize more, and that's why we're here in Adobe Live.
Yeah,
Is it's really
exactly.
this is really not about gear. It's really about the creative side. So I'm really
Exactly.
happy
And
that we're
like
here for
sharpening
that.
those skills and practicing and trying new things. So,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, with that being said, let's head over to our portfolio that we're reviewing. So, let me go ahead and
Cool.
share my
Actually, do me a
screen.
favor. Can you send me the link?
Oh,
Uh,
yeah, sure.
see. Oh, cool. Cool, 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 cool. Yeah, no, that's true. So there you go.
Okay. Sweet. Okay, so the portfolio that we're reviewing today, thank you so much for submitting, is from Vincent Smith. He's a photographer and a graphic designer based in Florida. And he's just a college student figuring it out, constantly learning new things and widening my palette to build up my portfolio. Would appreciate any form of constructive criticism for my work. So, real cool. I mean, super fun. I kind of want to start. I kind of saw the portfolio already a little bit, but I kind of want to check out these ones.
Awesome.
Are you
Yeah.
thinking? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is in the Bahamas, 2018. And I think this is film, actually.
I'm thinking this is film, yeah.
Which is awesome. The colors are beautiful.
Yeah.
I'll just quickly
Yeah, film
sweep
has
through.
like that very pastel color palette, and you can definitely see it here in the greens and the blues.
And the grain, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll just quickly sweep through, and then we can kind of pick our favorites. Whoa, this is beautiful.
Yeah, this is beautiful.
Wow. I love the repetition. And gotta love like travel film photos, like travel photography.
Yeah.
Wow. His colors
I think
are
that's
so
definitely
beautiful.
a self-portrait.
Yeah, right. Actually, yeah. Beautiful. I really wonder what film they used. It's a really beautiful colors.
Yeah. So this is definitely a picture that I find kind of interesting in the sense where you have that one person looking back. And that's kind of like that one moment that you're looking for. That thing that sticks out or stands out when you are photographing street, particularly when you're trying to photograph candidates.
Especially because of everything that's happening too. Like everyone's looking forward, everyone's walking forward. The rail is going forward. The cars are all moving forward, and then it's just this one person looking back. I think it adds like so much interest.
Yeah. And definitely that architectural one was definitely really good.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about the architectural shots, and I think that he definitely got it right on that one, is that it's not that easy. It's not that evident to find that right angle. You see it there, you know that it's there, but then to try to find the right inclination, the right perspective, it's kind of hard. Yeah. And I think this one definitely works. It makes it kind of trippy. It kind of reminds me, you remember the 3D puzzles that you had to like look and cross your eyes? They're not puzzles, but they're, you know what I'm talking about? That you have to like cross your eyes and then something comes out of them.
Yes. What are they called? Illusions?
I guess, yeah, 3D illusions, yeah.
Yeah, these kind of like eye tricks. Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of that, especially because, and you have a lot of elements here that I think he definitely used very well. It's like not only the perspective and the angle, but there's also the rails here that are also, like add a second layer of like of architecture or just craziness in general that is happening, that it melts into, this big pot of like, look at me.
Yeah. Oh, Vincent Smith's in the chat.
Oh,
hi, Vincent.
Awesome.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to have you here. Well, beautiful work. I mean, I really love the film, that you're shooting in film. And I don't know, maybe it could have been potentially he cropped this too. Maybe there was like stuff outside, and so he decided to kind of bring in the focus inside. But yeah, overall, I agree with you. The elements all kind of really work well together here. Yeah. Beautiful. I really like these too. And I really love that, this person right here kind of matches the color of this bus. And then this guy over here kind of matches the color of this bus too.
That's true, definitely. So those are kind of, I guess, happy accidents that sometimes happen while we're photographing. But I would say, in terms of street photography, or if you're trying to photograph outside, my advice to you, Vincent, is to try to find elements that are that are an emphasis, you know, like especially when you're photographing people, you're gonna want to try to find action and something that it really brings it to, okay, what's happening here,
Hmm.
and what's the point of who's the protagonist, who am I supposed to look at here, and at least that's the way when I'm photographing with street photography, or when I'm looking for street photographs or candidates like this, then that's kind of what I'm looking for. You know, what's the point of emphasis? Who is the leader of the action here?
Yeah, yeah,
So I would say I really love what you're doing with the colors here for sure. But in terms of like what I would like to see in an image like this, it's definitely like where is the action. But
yeah,
otherwise, you know, it's a great use of color and of film, of course.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Very fun. Okay, let me take a look at this other one. I kind of want to take it like the
Yeah,
self shot.
yeah,
I like that he's playing with kind of self portraits.
yes, yeah. Yeah, that's something that I
Ooh,
always advocate for, is like trying to play, and the best tool to learn is it's you
is
know
to photograph yourself.
photograph yourself, and that's how
Hmm.
you and that's something that I also did, like I have a whole portfolio of self portraits of me doing stupid stuff, but that's how I learned to work with movement and character and stuff like that.
I feel like
I
all of
really
us at
love.
some point too, you know?
Yeah, 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 yeah. I think I really like the. Is there anything under this?
Yes, I think so. Let me keep
Yeah,
scrolling. Ooh,
that's,
very beautiful. I mean, the colors are just
yeah.
fantastic.
Thank you so much for the film.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Ooh, okay,
Oh,
this is probably my favorite, I think.
I was thinking the first one, but then this one took
I
took a
know,
but yeah,
I know. This one took took it from me.
yeah.
That's the one. Wow, really beautiful. And I like that you in this project too, you kind of like also have photos of like the flowers by themselves too. I think that helps like tell the story a little bit more too. But I think this
But
is like my favorite.
yeah, yeah. This is a beautiful picture. Um, and it's really interesting how you can definitely see like the texture in his skin. And it
Yes.
really comes out because of the color palette that he's working with the greens and the browns,
Mm-hmm.
and the kind of like magenta.
Yeah.
But you know what? Another thing that I really like about this whole album is the experimentation, which is something that we've talked about today a
Yes.
lot. If you see, you can really kind of see his mind working throughout the process from the first one to
Mm-hmm.
to to here. You
Yeah.
kind of see him trying to,
From
all
like
right, let's test
experimenting.
this. Yeah, yeah. Because this first one was okay, but then you kind of find, okay, what happens if I go behind the flowers or behind the
Mm-hmm.
foliage instead? And
And I think
um
too, like, you know, even like with his expression and how he's looking, I there's like a really like softer, he gets softer with every
yeah,
image. And I think that really helps it here too. Like, I don't
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Funny thing, he actually, Vincent just commented in the chat, says he shoots with digital, by the way.
Oh,
So
that's digital.
maybe, yeah, maybe
I mean,
he's
that's probably a
emulating
preset
film.
or something. Yeah,
Yeah, or some
yeah,
sort of like his editing style is
yeah.
very similar to film. Very cool. Well, you definitely tricked us because I think these have very, you know,
And then
uh,
that's
film
definitely
qualities.
something. Yeah, and then there's definitely something else to complement him in the use of colors, the way he's editing, because he's really, really, um, really using a really cool editing palette to just
Hmm.
change a little bit, because digital won't give. I don't think any digital camera would give you that out of the
Right.
camera. You
Yeah.
definitely have to play a little bit with it.
That's true. And
Um,
actually, now that I think about it, as I look at the whole project, as like there's so many different editing styles too, between all the images. So if it were film, it probably would be a little bit more consistent.
But yeah, but
Um,
that's definitely funny how, like, as we were saying before, how the brain tricks you to
I
you see the
know.
things one way, and then you just like, all right, that's what it is, and then you're like, oh wait, no, that's not it.
Exactly. Yeah,
I
for
mean, I
sure.
can I can see that there's definitely a whole lot of like detail here that I don't think film will give you.
Right. That's
Um,
true. Yeah, it is way a lot more kind of
but definitely he did such a good work with the colors that it definitely tricks you into just thinking that it's something that it's obviously not out of camera. So,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
I would say though that I think you hit it perfectly on this editing style right here. For me, I personally enjoy that one more over this kind of very um I guess it just feels very highly saturated, like I
yeah,
want to tone it down.
yeah, yeah.
So maybe just like as like even just presenting a whole project, kind of keeping like that cohesiveness, I think is going to help
Yes.
you out
Yes.
a lot. So, but really, I mean, really beautiful work. And I like that you kind of showed us this whole entire process.
Yeah.
And we can see it like how you mentioned, Omar.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
very
think it
beautiful.
reminds me also of Andy Warhol did this experiments with these portraits. I think they were like videos, and he would sit someone down in front of the camera and
Mm-hmm.
keep the camera recording, and he would just leave and leave the person there in front of the camera by themselves.
Yes.
And you would see progressively how the attitude of the person would change from just like
Mm-hmm.
being a little bit guarded or like what's going on to then like completely relaxing. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that you can see through that portfolio as well.
Yeah, totally. This is another one. This is Chicago in 2018.
Chicago. I used to live in Chicago. I loved it there.
Yeah.
I really like this
Oh,
one.
I love this one. There's so much character.
Yeah, and it just brings you home,
Yeah.
literally.
Yeah, it does. I like that it's kind of, there's like like a little bit of a mess and it just feels, I don't know. Yeah, it does feel like home.
Yeah.
Yeah, very beautiful. Ooh, I love this one.
Nice.
As far as architecture, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say that like for this image, it's a little distracting that it's kind of lopsided. So I would probably do what you do, Omar, like give it
Yeah.
some geometry treatment.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and in general, in this particular image, again, there's no real point of emphasis.
Right, right.
So by contrast, what you're doing on the other architectural one, where
Right.
it's really, you're really seeing, like, I really see what you're doing here. Like, it's
Yes.
very
It's
clear
very
what you're trying
clear.
to do there. The black, the contrast, the blacks and the whites, and the blues that you see there as well. You really see a point of view, and that's what we're trying to do when we're photographing. And that's one of the things that you learn as you go along is what pictures I don't take. You know, what
Hmm.
pictures and even photographing digital, sometimes I'm like, I don't need to take that picture. I know what it is, and I don't want it. you know
Hmm.
so I think sometimes it's also important to know when not to photograph.
Yeah. Yeah. Or when to edit, right? So like I probably would have taken this image out
Yeah. Yeah.
of this project. There's a little bit more story in the rest of the images. Let me look at these restaurants. Oh, cool. Oh. Whoa, I kind of love this.
Yeah. This is
There's
the
so
guy
much.
that makes the photo, the guy in the
Yes, right here.
this guy. Yeah. Yeah, he definitely makes a photo.
I love, yeah, I really like this. It's kind of chaotic, but it's just like so many, I don't know, there's so many like faces and expressions and a lot going on. It's
Yeah, I
fun.
mean, it goes to one of the principles of photography and composition. Is repetition is one of those
Repetition. Hmm.
principles. So you want to look for something that is repeating, but then there's something that breaks that repetition. And that's why this photo is kind of fun. It's because of this guy
Yes.
with his hands up, and I think he's kind of the only person of color in that picture as well. There's a
Yeah,
few here
actually,
and
you're
there,
right.
but there's a few here and there, but he definitely
He stands
stands
out.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, it's fun. I really like that, Vincent kind of tries to find those little moments
Yeah.
of like, you
Yeah.
know, like finding what that subject is, like how you're talking about, finding
Yeah,
what
and
the
then
focus is.
also what he's wearing. He's also wearing this different,
Yeah.
colorful um garment. Uh,
Yeah.
See, by
That's cool.
contrast, in this one, we'll see repetition, but then there's nothing that sticks out. There's nothing
Yeah.
that separates it. So
Maybe waiting
again,
for someone to look back or
yeah,
something to also like, yeah, to give a little contrast. Oh, that's cool.
and here's a
Interesting.
similar concept. You see the person
Yeah.
there behind with the hands raised in the V shape, and it goes back to emphasis. So
Hmm.
even though that's not the person in focus, for me, what really makes the picture in the end is that you see how there's a gamma of emotions going throughout. You definitely see that people are in expectation of something,
Mm-hmm.
but definitely probably that's the son of the guy in the back is being
Yeah.
called, and he's like, hey. So you definitely see
Yeah.
those moments like that.
That's
And
real cute. Yeah, for sure.
ooh,
Ooh. Okay. Interesting. I really like this.
yeah, these are beautiful.
Yeah. It feels like an old photo. I wonder what all these notes are, like what they
Well, I wonder what that keyword
like
is, because
what
that's definitely an
language.
old keyword.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, you're right. No, these are great. I love this. Okay,
Yeah.
see that's that kind of same like architecture vibe here. Ooh, very cool. Yeah, Vincent, I mean, this is really beautiful work. But yeah, just like really, I think at the end of the day, it's kind of realizing like what, Omar was saying about like focus, like, and what makes that image extra, you know?
Yeah, but it also comes down to what you were mentioning about the editing, because there's a lot of great images here, but they're not necessarily cohesive one with the other. So I would try
Mm-hmm.
to find a way to make the galleries, or just make the collections in a way that they're more cohesive. So definitely, for example, I would put the image of the
Mm-hmm.
kitchen um and this one,
Yeah.
for
Kind of
example,
like home
yeah,
elements.
kind
Yeah.
of together. The graduation is a completely different moment. So you have,
Yes.
I mean, I know that he's probably talking about his trip
Right,
to
right.
Chicago. So in that sense, I understand. But then maybe the chronology, or just the way of putting them together, so that
Yeah.
it's a little bit
Kind of
more,
grouping them.
yeah,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, but this is beautiful work. Super, super fun.
yeah.
But yeah, I think just kind of tightening up like, how you present your work, and I think you're good to go, Vincent. It's really fun. Oh, he said, fun fact, the graduation photos were during my stepsister's ceremony. She was the first Black female student president for the
Oh
university. So it was a
yeah,
great time. Oh,
that's
that's
amazing.
wonderful.
That's
I love
amazing.
that. That's something to be really proud of. So thank you for those fun facts, Vincent. Yeah, really beautiful stuff. I think you know what to do, and just keep creating and having fun. So yeah, thank you guys for submitting your portfolios. This is really awesome. I really enjoyed the portfolios that we reviewed yesterday and today. So, all right, shall we get back to you, Omar? And we can
Sure.
do some other little additional things if you want.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. Yeah. There you go.
cool,
Cool.
cool. Okay.
So not Photoshop. Uh, let's go back to Lightroom.
Cool,
Okay.
cool.
Um,
So we have about, let's see, maybe 7 minutes. So if you wanted to just take care of some fun little thing, feel
yes. All
free.
right. So let's work on this one. This is part
Wow.
of that imperfect project that I was telling you about earlier. And I photographed part of it on digital and part of it on film. Um, but this is again one digital. So let's just start working with this image. And again, that's I purposely you can see that there's no focus, like it's completely out of focus, and that's something by default. In this series, I was trying to, like, get these moments and get us out, get the viewer out of the gear, or just, like, sharpness mentality, and really think about the nostalgic feeling, or just pay more attention to the moment itself. So the first thing that I would do to this image is bring the exposure down a little bit, because it's a little bit blown out, and bring the highlights down, so there's a little bit more um, detail in that sense. And
Hmm.
that also adds a little bit more to the sense of layers that we're trying to play with, having her behind that curtain.
Yeah, it's very
um,
beautiful. It almost like gives like this feeling that she's kind of wearing these like tights that's
yeah,
like, with this embroidery or
yeah,
yeah, very
yeah.
beautiful.
So next thing that I'm doing is I'm bringing up the shadows a little bit, to bring a little bit more light into her face itself. Um, Already we can see um, like a big difference between the before and the after, and we can also see, like, her leg a little bit better now. So I think that would be that for at least the exposure or the light in itself. Let's of course not forget about modifying.
Yes.
Uh, you've definitely christened that term for sure. Uh, so see how I brought up this S curve, and now I have to bring down the curve, the highlights just a little bit more. And I don't think I'm gonna bring down the vibrance a little bit. Um, let's just take a look and see how this would look in black and white.
Ooh.
It's good looking good in black and white. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to finish uh, working with it in black and white a little bit, make it a little bit more contrasty. And again, the purpose of this particular series, it's to make it look not perfect. So I'm leaving it like this in terms of the lighting. I know that we don't see her completely, but I kind of like it because it really adds to that sense of mystery,
Yes.
and kind of like someone hiding behind the shadows or
Yeah.
hiding
Even
behind
like
the
her
curtain. Yeah,
expression too, it kind of feels, yeah, like she's trying to hide something
yeah,
or like
yeah.
she's scared of,
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, yeah. So, and then I just added a little bit of texture there, and that's basically what I would do to this image if I would keep it in black and white. So, but because we have a little bit of time, what I'm going to
Yeah.
do is we're going to come to the versions here. And for anyone that doesn't know, the Lightroom Mobile now allows you to create versions. So you can definitely have like it's almost like doing a virtual copy
The
on
classic.
Classic. But here it's a similar treatment where you create versions. So if I create a version, I'm just going to call it black and white, and this only is the name of the that you're giving to this the version of this image. So just call it black white because I don't have the time. Uh, I don't even know how to write white. Let's just do VW because I'm too distracted. Cool. So just VW. There you go. So now let's just go back to the original. So now that's saved. I have it there, and I know that it exists. So let's just go back to the original, and let's just play a little bit with the elements that I did before, the highlights. Um, let's do the S curve here and modify it a little bit. And I'm going through this a little bit in super speed. Uh, cool there. And then texture. Now let's play a little bit with the split toning. Uh, just go for the green.
Ooh.
There you go. Um, yes, yes, yes,
That's so
yes,
cool.
yes. A little bit there, and I could leave it at that. Let's just add some vignetting. I always say I could leave it like that, but then I keep playing.
Yeah,
Uh,
right?
yeah, there. Right, good. That's about it, Omar. Wait, hold on, a little bit more white. Let's bring the whites down. There. So there's a little bit more dynamic range. So let's leave it at that. Cool. So now I have and let's create another version and let's call it film just for film color,
Okay.
just for fun. Cool. So now I have two versions that I created, um, and then I can pick and choose. But
Yeah.
it definitely gives me an idea of different alternatives that I can do with this photograph.
Yeah,
Um,
very
but
nice.
it's definitely you don't lose any data, you don't lose any, don't have to like go back or anything like that. By having different versions, then you can cater to different moments, or even different clients that maybe someone will want to buy this print in color and someone will want to buy it in black and white.
Yeah, that's so
And that
true.
way you create those two
That's very beautiful. I don't know. I
opportunities.
don't even know which one I would like more. They're both
I,
beautiful.
I like them both really.
I know.
It's really a matter of choice in the end, and I think what I feel like that day, but I actually like them both, as you said.
I know.
Uh,
It's really hard. And I think, yeah, I mean, it's just such a great image that it can go both ways. I especially love I just love the scallops on the, like the edge of
yeah,
the, what was it? Was it just like a fabric or like a
it's a
curtain?
curtain. Yeah, it's a
Oh, it's
curtain.
a curtain.
Yeah,
That's so cool. Wow. I don't even know. Maybe I'm leaning more towards the black and white. I think because it
yeah,
gives it some, like almost like this ethereal
yeah.
like
Yeah.
effect to it. I don't know, but
All right. So Arabella said black and white. Let's leave it at black and white.
that's very beautiful though.
Well, thank you so
Wow. Oh my
much.
gosh. I can't believe you've got through so much even just in yesterday and today. So I'm really impressed. But
Thank
I
you so
think we've
much.
come to the end of our stream of day 2. Thank you so much, Omar. You did an incredible job, and you're such a natural at teaching too.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, but thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to stick around. Again, we have all sorts of things happening for the rest of the day, and keep continuing to create and challenge yourself. And thank you again,
Yes,
Omar, so much.
my
So,
pleasure.
all right, until next time. Bye.
Bye.